Hey, welcome back to the X Podcast. I am here with Mr. Tim Moore and a special guest, Christie Oda.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to be a
Christie
fun conversation. IE. These are the Odas.
Yes.
R-I-S-T-I-E.
That's right.
Christie with an I-E.
Yeah.
And if you smell the greatness at this table, it is because she has had family also at this table. Your son-in-law is Greg, for anybody that has been part of the AI conversations. Was that the only one he was on?
I
was on AI. I don't know. But so this is a personally special episode for me because the Oda family, when I moved here 6 years ago, was one of the first families that just became some of my favorites and welcomed me in when we were in Lancaster, for those that are part of our faith community, for a while. And they're just a really special family and great leaders, but sharp. You are now working counselor. Give me the official title.
So my official title is life coach.
Okay.
But you could call me therapist. So I've got 17 years experience as a counselor.
Okay.
But I hung my own hat as a life coach. So
I love it.
So this is a new iteration to what you were doing?
yes.
So
yes.
you what kind of counseling did you do for 17 years?
So for 10 years, I worked in the school districts in Fairfield County. And so I worked with kids from kindergarten through senior year of high school and their families.
Yeah.
Mostly depression, anxiety, that type of thing. And then I worked as a counselor at a Christian counseling center. And I worked with adults. And again, stress, anxiety, depression, that type of thing.
Gotcha.
Mental health problems, basically.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, made a decision to hang my own hat on my own shingle.
You got your own business now.
My own business.
Going out on your own.
Yes.
Yep.
And from the state of Ohio's licensure, I'm not able to call myself a counselor or a licensed social worker.
Okay.
So I call myself a life coach.
Okay.
But I'm really doing therapy, just like I've always done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So life coach. So you do some therapy, but what's the difference between therapy in your mind and life coach? Like, is it the difference of the problem that someone comes with? Or are you saying they're the same, it's just a different name? You're kind of like...
For me, it's probably very much the same.
Okay.
I would not say that's true overall, though. I would say that when somebody is a life coach, if they don't have a counseling background, then they're probably more talking about setting goals and action steps and getting to a place. And I would
That's
agree.
what I think of when I think of life coach. That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
would you
I do that, but it's probably more mental health related than it necessarily is. Now, this new aspect that we're going to be talking about is also health and wellness related.
Okay.
So I'm kind of adding a specialty area with that.
Okay.
It seems like for life coach and counseling, the difference for some is semantics, for some it's approach.
Yes.
And the approach being counselors ask a lot of questions, coaches give a lot of answers.
Okay.
They give a lot of goals.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I can see that.
Because I've worked with
Yes.
both. And counselors are going to ask you questions to dig below the surface and get to the root. And the coach is going to say, here's what you need to do this week. And don't come back until you've done it.
Okay. So I'm probably more of a counselor with a little bit of life
coaching.
Got you.
Because that's where my background
So I'm going to
Counselor
skip
coach.
my urge. Because we need to dive in because you have a fascinating story. So I'm going to skip my urge. But I just got to, to not ask what we think about all the things that have happened this week, depending on when you hear this.
Okay.
That Willie Mays just died.
I
the
saw
greatest
that.
baseball hero of all time.
Really?
My dad was really down
Huge
about that.
fan of
Yes.
Willie Mays?
They just put, this would affect what you do with mental counseling. They just put warning labels
I saw this
on
on
social media. Have you seen this?
I have not.
How do you see it? Because I haven't seen one.
I haven't seen where it is on social media, but what
Is it when you
who
sign
was it?
up?
Was the government? Not the government, but
No, it's Surgeon General.
Surgeon General.
Yeah, I saw it.
So that teens know that this can have damaging mental health effects by use of social media. So there's now like warning labels. I don't know what it looks like or where it is. But
It's when you buy a phone.
Is it when you buy a phone?
I'm like, this is dumb. Let's be honest. Does anybody really pay attention? I feel like the Surgeon General's warning is the government's way of placating everybody by going, well, we're going to put this on the package of cigarettes. I don't know anybody who has ever stopped smoking cigarettes because they picked up a package and they went, oh, this isn't good for you. Like, I feel like it's with social media, this is just my take. Maybe there's more to it. I feel like this is the government because there's so much pressure lately on the government's been with Facebook and all the the things that the interviews they've had in front of it, that this is like one, maybe it's a small step, but is there one little way, because right now people are asking the government, maybe you need to step in because of the damage and other things that are happening in social media.
Right.
So I don't know if this is the end all be all, but it's like the Surgeon General said that there's going to be a pop-up that will show up on your phone that you can just hit OK and clear so you can get back to your scrolling.
It does seem odd that the Surgeon General seems to finally put an official statement on what researchers say for a decade leading up to it. Because there's been psychologists and researchers and statisticians saying these things for a decade. Same thing. I mean,
I don't think they've been saying it quite for a decade.
No,
not with. Well, I'm reading the book Anxious Generation that just came out.
Oh no, 15 years ago, Turkle that came out with The Shallows and Together Separate.
Wait, 15 years ago? No, I don't think so. The iPhone came out in 2007. Social media did not really start coming out until the 2010s. And they did not really even get prolific use until 2012.
2000.
So it has not been that
long. It's over 10 years ago that the first book started coming out on the mental health effects of digital media.
Maybe digital media. I don't know about social media, because this book I'm reading is one by Jonathan Haidt on The Anxious Generation. It's a fascinating book, but even the correlations that he is arguing as causation after 10 years of data, so we're talking, this is from 2012, 13 to now, is still being argued by other psychologists who are saying it is not causation. Like he literally talks about in the book, he's like, when I released the last article on this, I had psychologists pushing back and go, this isn't causation. So what I'm saying is it's not quite as clear as we think. I think that the data, I think it's kind of one of those things that there's enough data, and then there are some people who are just kind of pushing back and they're going, yeah, I don't think that's actually causing that. That's just a correlation, where I think 95% of us with common sense who've lived through it can look at it and go, no, we're pretty sure that it's actual causation.
Well, yeah. So they've been saying, so there's been debate for 10, 12 years. Would you say that that's the equivalent of climate change?
As you mean the debate? Or?
Oh, yeah, because you're saying 95% of experts are saying this, but people still push back.
Except that I don't think 95% of people are yet to give in to all of the, it's getting hot, and every summer we're having record heat, and the oceans are hotter than they've ever been. But it's not climate change, right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's
welcome to the table, Christie.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
But what I really want, what Pastor Tim really wanted me to ask you, just to get started, was
this is a Russism.
No,
this is a setup.
There's a news article that came out this morning that Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin just signed an official military pact. So initial reactions.
Great. I didn't know about that.
Okay.
To support Russia in their war against Ukraine.
Yeah. So there's just so much to talk about.
I know.
Okay, but I'm excited because you have an exciting story of transformation.
I do. Yes.
An exciting story of transformation, and you don't just have experience, but you have research around all of this. And we had Kaylin on about a month and a half ago talking about her journey through just cosmetics and aesthetic adjustments and all those kind of things. And I just feel like there's so much conversation going on right now and under the broad umbrella of health and weight and body image and all of these things. And so I think probably for the next season, we're just there's just some fascinating conversations to have. And you have a powerful, exciting transformation of weight loss.
Yes.
Relationship with food,
yes,
of procedures, and so I don't even know where you want to begin.
Okay.
But walk us through what the last year or two has looked like, or maybe even before that.
Yeah.
What your relationship with food and weight has been like that you feel comfortable sharing.
Well, and I think relationship with food is the great phrase.
Okay.
Because it is a relationship.
Yeah.
I think for me, food was both my best friend and my worst enemy, wrapped up in one. And that kind is...
That's good. It's my best friend.
Yeah.
And my worst enemy. Well said.
Yeah, that's good.
So as a best friend, it was the place for decades that I went to for comfort. So if things were going bad in my life, I was handling a disappointment or a failure or stress or overwhelm, negative emotions, basically, I run to food. And food gives you pleasure, a dopamine dump, right?
So who was your best friend?
Which one?
Yes.
Yeah. Which one was your best friend?
Chocolate. Come
was your best
on.
friend.
Chocolate was my
Come
best
on.
friend.
Okay,
Yes.
all forms of chocolate.
Probably, yes.
Because I always feel like when I'm trying to be better, we'll talk about eating, right? When I'm trying to be better, I always feel like pure little dark chocolate are usually like an acceptable cheat. I say
Well,
cheat. That's a bad
is
term,
it a
but
cheat?
that's
Yeah.
a cheat. Again, this goes back to
Yeah.
our relationship, right? with
Indulgence.
food.
Yes.
Indulgent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
A weekend affair.
I
But
don't want to
here's
use
the
those words.
Here's the thing
It's
I've
more of a
learned, though.
daily,
Yeah.
but not unfair.
But I have learned
no.
something in this,
Okay.
like post,
Yeah.
losing the weight, and
Yeah.
I like chocolate. So
like-
chocolate is still part of my everyday life. I
Yeah.
have a Fairlife Core Power chocolate
Okay.
protein shake because I like the flavor of chocolate.
You like
Core
chocolate.
Power's good.
What's your
So-
What's your best friend? All right, we'll get back to your story. I just want to I'm finding these moments. And I'm like, who's your best friend?
Well, one thing that I've not talked about.
He'll probably say salad or something stupid like that.
No, were you talking about?
Oh, greens.
Okay,
my green smoothie that I take
okay, Mr.
with
Plain
extra
Barbecue Chicken.
vegetables and
I love food. I love all kinds of food. Honestly, I really love a really good burger. I love a good burger. I love a good pizza. But I have a sweet tooth. I mean, one thing
Pizza.
maybe I can share
you
this.
do not have a sweet tooth.
N-
I have a sweet
No,
tooth. You do not
You don't
qualify.
understand. You don't
Or
know.
maybe you just have more discipline.
You don't know me. I don't know that I would ever claim to have more discipline than you.
No, you have more discipline in that area.
But I won't go into all of it because this is more of a private thing. But since we're halfway through the year, I'll share this one thing that I have some goals for this year, and one of them was to not do dessert for a year. So even though I have a sweet tooth, I've not done dessert since last year. Now there have been moments where I'm like, I get this little. I've gotten those the protein balls from Coffee on High.
yeah.
That I'm like, once I saw the macros, I'm like, I don't know.
It's a good dessert.
That's
not.
but so that's been like an intentional thing of, okay, what does my relationship with that look like? How does it feel if that's different? But in general, I get it from my mom. I got a huge sweet tooth. Oh my gosh, I'm the person that I could do dessert at the end of every meal.
Me too.
I love. To me, the greatest marriage under heaven is chocolate and peanut butter. That is the greatest combination man's ever found.
Well, and I think it's interesting we're talking about best friend. So
Yeah.
I do think food is to enjoy. So that's part of what I've learned
Yeah.
in post
You don't
in this
think
journey.
it's just
I
fuel
think-
for the body,
no, I
and
do
it's
not.
not.
No, I do not.
You
I
think-
think
you
we
think most
are
people
to
agree with
enjoy
you?
that.
I mean,
think
I'm
we're
with
to
you.
enjoy food. Like I
does.
think, why would it be pleasurable if we're not to enjoy the taste
Yeah.
of it, right?
I agree.
However,
So
when
then what
I
do you
say
d-
best friend,
Yeah.
I mean that's where I took my emotions. So that's the part that was
Yeah.
messed up. Like that's the part. So two things I guess I've learned, and we'll talk about the journey a little bit, but is that I do make sure that what I eat I like, and it tastes good. I don't eat very much, but when I do eat, it's gonna taste good. I'm not gonna eat stuff that I don't like.
Gotcha. You mean stuff that you don't like that is maybe healthy, but it's like I don't really want that.
Yeah, or I don't like the flavor of it.
Yeah.
So just because it's healthy and I don't like the flavor of it, I don't eat a lot, and we'll talk about why that is. But so if I'm going to eat something, I'm going to enjoy it in that small portion. But the thing that
So
has
you won't.
changed-
Sorry, I just want.
No,
I'll probably
that's
pause you
fine.
on.
I'm trying to
So
qualify some of this.
are you? So you'll never. Will you ever eat something that you don't like just because it's healthy?
Probably not.
Okay.
Not this side of the weight loss.
Okay.
Probably not.
Okay.
You would.
Oh yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
I probably wouldn't. I'm more the type that I have a much more narrower palate, and I
You
don't
have a-
love a
yeah.
lot of healthy things. Like my wife does. Like she'll go and, oh man, Panera's got this quinoa bowl that's got blah blah blah, and I'm just like, that sounds awful. And so, but she likes it.
Yeah.
She likes
Well,
a lot of healthy
and I
foods.
should qualify. I do like healthy
Well,
food.
that's good for you. I
Yes.
don't like a lot of
Yes.
healthy.
There's
those
really
type of
not
I
foods.
like
I
the
don't
phrase
like.
that you
You
said.
do.
You have a narrower palate. Yes,
I have a
I
wide
do.
palate, so I do
I don't.
like
He
things.
does.
Well,
Yeah.
so I will. The things that, yeah, I have a wide palate and I have a pretty strong stomach. So like like athletic greens, I can take. I don't just choose to regularly eat a ton of full meals of stuff that I hate. I don't do that.
No.
But like I'll take shakes and greens and stuff in the morning that I wouldn't say taste good, but I don't care. I just take them. And I do think there is, maybe I'm curious your thoughts on this. I also think you can retrain your taste buds.
Yes,
I think we crave what we consume.
Absolutely true.
And so I do think you can train yourself to not be addicted to salt, butter, and sugar. And to I think there's what your taste buds crave, and then I think is what your body craves.
Yes.
And you can begin to listen to what your body craves even more.
Well, and the food addiction, if you want to, like the definition of food addiction is having that dopamine cycle where you eat the sugar, the fat, and the salt. And now your body literally wants the sugar, the fat, and the salt. And you go back to it, and you go back to it, and you go back to it because your body is craving.
Well, I read something last night, Scott Galloway's book. Of course, he's coming from more of an evolutionary standpoint. He said, but if you view things from a purely evolutionary standpoint, macroevolution, like our ancestors had very short supplies and very limited supplies of salt, sugar, and fat.
That's true.
So the moment they hit it, their brains would just, this is survival. So there's something in us as a species that salt, sugar, fat, our brains light up. Survival and pleasure.
Definitely pleasure.
And so the advertisers use that.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
So okay, we detracting you from your story, but back to it. Food, your best friend, worst enemy.
Worst enemy, shame.
You were talking about leading up to this.
Leading up to it.
What did that look like for you? So in the decades or whatever you want to say, years leading up to your transformation?
I know that I struggled with food like my whole life. Probably my earliest memory of doing like a starvation diet was when I was 10 years old and sitting with all the rest of the kids around me having pizza and birthday cake, and I'm sitting with a cup of bouillon.
A cup of what?
Bouillon.
Bouillon, beef broth.
Bouillon cubes. They used to put them in.
So I've had a disordered relationship with food my whole life.
Well, it wasn't just probably food. I mean, disordered relationship with how you used food.
Yes.
But it probably was more of your weight. Even at 10, right? So it was more of like, I don't feel comfortable. I want to lose weight, this and that. And that's how you would.
Yes. I had a sibling who was super small.
Okay.
I was chubby. I wasn't what we would call fat.
Yeah.
That didn't actually happen for me until college. So in college, so I kind of managed that weight, the body image, the weight, by not eating a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then in college, we would go out and, we'd eat the pizzas. And I didn't gain the 15, I gained the 50. And I was like, okay, I've got to do something. Well, unfortunately, I chose self-induced vomiting. So I chose so I managed my weight in that way.
Through bulimia.
Right? Bulimia, yeah. So I developed this, I'm going to run to food, I'm going to eat as much as I can. We call that binging.
Yeah.
In college. And then developed this mechanism to get rid of it, right? And then I watched in graduate school a video or a movie on TV about a woman who had throat cancer because of the bulimia. And believe it or not, that scared me enough that I stopped.
Wow.
I just stopped.
Yeah.
And I stopped.
Like cold turkey? Because
took me about a year.
I was going to say,
it took me about a year.
That becomes quite a very addictive.
It does.
Why? Help me understand from a personal experience, maybe less of a professional one. Why does the bulimia become so addictive? Is it because it lets you binge and eat what you want with almost, I want to say, without guilt? Because you're just going to, or is it more of such like you need it because of body conscious that you're like, if I don't do this, I am going to, so I have to, so that becomes a behavior that is really
it's
addictive.
A good question.
I'm just asking. I really don't know.
It's a really good question.
I'm curious the psychological connection to the addictive behavior of bulimia, but same thing with anorexia, bulimia. I've heard this before that it's not something that's easy to get away with. From.
No, it's not. No. So there is shame in being overweight.
Yeah.
And everybody sees that you have a food problem because you're overweight.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's shame in that.
Yeah.
So I think for me, when I look back in those days, it was about controlling. And I think behind all eating disorders is really a need to control. And so I would run to the food, like I said, best friend, for the comfort. And I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted to do. There's that selfish egocentricness, right? But I didn't want to have to pay for it. I didn't want the shame that came with being overweight. So I vomited and learned to do that. And I didn't address, I think the thing is that I didn't address why I was running to food to begin with.
Yeah.
Like I never addressed the underlying reason. Like why was I running to food? What was going on inside of me that I wasn't either taking to God? At that time I didn't know the Lord, and also why was I still having to have something that I was coping with? Like coping with in terms of like a coping response, you know? I think when I decided to stop, it was about a year process because it's tempting, but I didn't stop the binging. And so I put on 100 pounds really quick, like really quick.
Really?
Yeah. And so then I wear this coat of shame, basically, the weight.
Can I ask you, if it's not too personal, I think all of our vices have roots.
Yes. Yes.
What did you discover was yours?
Probably, I'm very relational. So relationship disappointments, relationship hurt, and things that I couldn't. So think about it, what I said about control, things that I couldn't control. People who had done things to me that I couldn't have any impact on, I couldn't control, I couldn't change. And so I try to shift that control into food. And so I can control food somehow, right?
Yeah.
I can control what comes in, I can control what goes out.
Yeah.
Until I couldn't.
And just to add to that, like spiritually, you'd say that you didn't have a faith then?
I did not, no.
And so I almost wonder, and I'm not saying it's like a fix for that, but one of the things I think that we do have, at least through our faith, is you have somewhere or somewhere to go with your disappointment. And even if someone's hurt you,
right.
Again, it's not easy, and it's not just not limited only to a faith of this, but the idea of forgiveness, that like the idea of like releasing hurt to God and going, okay, you're just God, and so I trust that someday you're gonna, and also, like those concepts, I guess I would say, that come out of Scripture for us and out of our faith, they're not there. And so the reason why I say it is because I think other people can maybe identify with, or maybe someone who's watching or listening and they don't have a faith. It's like, where do you go with that when you're kind of stuck with that hurt?
Right.
Yeah.
And that pain, and that you don't have anywhere to go with it. There's no relief from it.
Right.
So when you can't get relief in one area, you go try to hit a dopamine hit in another. I mean, this is how all addictions happen,
That's
right?
right.
I mean, it's alcohol, drugs, pornography, anything.
Yes.
It's I need something to make me feel better because I feel so bad.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a great question. I mean, we're getting kind of philosophical, spiritual, but it is a great question to ask for anyone. I mean, even if you do have a faith, is what's my source?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all pick a source that we go to. And for some, it could be a screen, could be shopping, could be a bottle,
Right.
could be a restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But whatever you make your source eventually kind of becomes your God. And it stops serving you and you start serving it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's the worst enemy part.
Yeah.
It heaps on the shame, the condemnation. So I did develop a relationship with Jesus around that same time, like just a few years after the bulimia. And so here I sit like 3 decades later, and my relationship is growing with Christ, and I know I'm loved, and I know that have worth and value. And I mean, that's over a period of time.
Yeah.
That's like not right away. It's a process. But yet I'm still eating.
And it's unrelated to how you. So here's the challenge, I think, sometimes, right? We're getting definitely deep into this even spiritually, but you can learn and know from Scripture, from other things, time with God, that you are loved and valued in God's eyes. The bigger problem is you don't feel that way in your own eyes.
True.
You know what I mean? I think
Yes.
that's often, I think
True.
even for me, and the process has been like, okay, I understand that truth and I can accept it, but I don't like the way you know what I mean? I think that's, and oftentimes because we're comparing ourselves with societal standards or with someone else. And so I think that's still a journey.
Yes,
I guess
it is
I wanted
a
to
journey.
add, that's still a
Yes.
journey, because I agree with you. You can understand all those things, but still not love yourself
It's
and not
yeah.
love, you not feel as valuable because
Yeah.
of
Well, you can carry the
body
shame.
image and the shame that
Yes.
comes with it.
Yeah, it's almost like listening to you. It's almost like, what's the journey between God's acceptance to self-acceptance?
Yes. And also
It's like
the
you
shame.
hope it
Yeah.
translates,
Yes.
but that's a journey.
Yes, it is a journey. And the shame of, I know this is sin. I know that I should be going to the Lord instead of food. And yet, why can't I stop this? Like, there's a shame part of that too, instead of acceptance. And that's that kind of, okay, because
Yeah.
this is a struggle for me. This is where I'm battling. This is my battleground. And so I think there was this
Yeah.
acceptance of, this is my battleground. And it's time, because of what has changed on the inside of me, it's time to address the things that are outside of me, like my behaviors, like choosing the food.
But that
it's
took
time to address
But that took a long time.
It did
like
take a long
you're
time.
saying you kind of really took that on recently.
Well, I've been through a lot of diets in 30 years.
Okay, you know what?
Oh, my
I hear
heavens,
you.
have I been through
I hear
diets
you.
in the
I think a
30
lot of
years.
people
Yes.
that have
Yes.
gone through the process that you've gone through in the last 6 months,
Yes.
8 months, or whatever, have.
Yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
So that's been the ongoing
It
thing.
has been an ongoing attempting.
Yeah.
When I was 40 years old, I lost 90 pounds and I just stopped.
Wow.
And I went to a doctor and I
Yeah.
said, I'm stalled. For months I've been
Yeah.
stalled, and I'm doing the exercise, I'm doing all the food. What's going on? And they said, you're never going to lose more than that, because your body has got these set metabolic rate or set
Yeah.
points. You're never going to go past that. And I was so discouraged that I just went
Just
back
gave up?
I gave up. And I went right back up,
So wait,
gained
you-
all those 90 pounds.
you-
Now I am 30 pounds lighter than
So
that weight.
you're better than that. So let me ask you
That's
this.
awesome.
23 pounds.
Losing
whatever.
that 90 pounds, how'd you do that? Back then?
That was diet and exercise.
Diet and
A
exercise.
lot of exercise, though. I was able to run.
Yeah.
And so I ran and I ran and I ran and I ran and I ran like 10 miles.
You ever tried
a
to
day,
outrun your
run.
Are you
problems?
serious?
I'm serious.
That's you.
A
you
lot
you
of
ran it
exercise.
off.
I did.
You ran
but
it off.
did I change the way I ate? Yeah, I
Here
ate
and there.
moderation
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But I didn't change that mechanism of running to food as my best friend and coping. I mean, I'll probably say this another 4 times, but I think that's the main thing that
Wow.
has changed. Yeah.
With you.
I feel like with all our behaviors, if there's not an underlying, for lack of better words, character basis change, then the external changes don't last.
Yes, exactly.
They just don't.
100% agree with that.
So it seems like you've attacked it now at this point, spiritually, psychologically, and practically.
Yes.
So
Yes.
walk us
That was well
through the culmination of that. I mean, we're always on a journey, but
Yes.
there's been breakthrough.
Yes, there
So,
has been. So
yeah.
2 years ago during a prayer night in May, I really heard the question in terms of a relationship in my life that was disappointing. And am I going to be enough from God? Am I going to be enough? I am enough. And I know you're enough, God, but can you make me enough in this relationship so that you come to me, not the relationship, and I pour through you to the relationship? And so I made a commitment that day to really purpose that. And I think that was really the beginning even of this weight loss journey, like this last
that
one.
internal shift
It was really a shift.
of I'm going to let my faith be enough.
Yes.
I'm going to let God be enough.
God is really going to be enough. And challenge myself every time that I wasn't feeling that way or it wasn't seeming that way.
So there's a deep connection between that and contentment.
Yes, there is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then I was having trouble physically getting up and down stairs. And I'm too young for that to happen. And that scared me, kind of like the video, like the documentary
Yeah.
that I watched. It scared me enough to say, I've got to change something now. I can't just mess around with this anymore, you know? And so I started thinking about things surgery-wise, the gastric sleeve versus the gastric bypass. Really started thinking about those things a long time ago, but our insurance doesn't pay for it. So it was a several $1,000 decision. I mean, we're talking about $12,000, $13,000 decision on our part, and to pay out of pocket for something like that, it's a big decision. So we had saved up money the fall of 23. I had saved up money for a hot tub. And I went to my husband and I said, what if we use that money for the surgery instead? And I said, I know that's a big deal. And I had, I think you'd said people will say, well, why can't you just do?
Right.
And that for sure.
Like just do exercise, diet.
Because really, what does the surgery do? The surgery takes 80% of your stomach.
Okay.
And it reduces your stomach size. It does not address going to food as a best friend. That's going to be on me. It does not address the types of foods I put in my mouth, whether I decide to have them nutrient dense or I decide for them to be junk food, that's on me. It just simply limits the size of my stomach. And I thought, why, really? I'm going to spend this kind of money to do that? Like, that's there was shame in that. Like, why can't I do this? Why haven't I been able to do this?
Yeah. I imagine that would be a real,
it's really hard.
even struggle to decide to do it on that side, not just for the cost, but also it's almost, I can understand the feeling of like, well, I couldn't do it.
Right. Yes. There's something
I tried,
wrong with
but
me.
I couldn't do it.
Yes.
Something's wrong with me, and why, not just do this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
So I just want to point out, I think that'd probably be a real challenge. I think a lot of
it
people
really
would
was.
really feel that way.
Yes. Yes. And I had family members speak that over me too. So that was difficult. Like, I don't know why I can't. But I haven't been able to. And I know I've got to do something big. I've got to do this. Like,
and your story, I
something.
think it's important for you to say because everybody's journey does look different. I know that sounds cliche, but when you're telling your journey, it's descriptive, not prescriptive.
Right.
You're not telling everybody this is what they should do.
No.
You're saying, hey,
absolutely
I had a 30-year journey, and for me, this is what I needed to do.
Yes. And I felt that, but to be honest, I was still sitting on the fence to some degree when the surgeon was at the end of my bed last October, and he said, "Are you ready?" I said, "I don't know." I think.
Yeah.
And for me, I was afraid of the what ifs. I knew that my health was being negatively impacted, and would definitely be negatively impacted. I've got diabetes in my family, heart, I wasn't having any of those problems.
Yeah.
So was I going to trade good health for potentially bad health because of side effects of the surgery? I wasn't sure about that. So that was kind of scary too.
And surgery. They're in there cutting into your stomach.
Yeah.
And connecting it. Like, a lot of things could go wrong.
Yeah. A lot of things can go wrong.
So do they cut or do they stick a sleeve on it to shrink it? Like, I'm not super familiar with it. Or do they take out and replace with a sleeve that's way smaller?
So
they can't expand.
They cut out 80 to 85% of your stomach.
They remove it.
They remove it.
Okay.
And so what you're left with is a sleeve that looks like a small banana.
Okay.
So if you think of your stomach as like a balloon, then they cut away the balloon part. And it's just like a tube, basically.
Okay. And is that just still your actual intestines, or do they put another, I don't know anything about it, do they put an actual sleeve? Because the reason why I'm asking is because some people have said that you can have different things done, but you can over time stretch it back out.
Yes, right. So my stomach is still there. That's called a gastric sleeve. And the reason they call it sleeve is they've left the stomach the size of a sleeve.
Okay.
Or that's why
but
they
it's
call
still
it
your
that.
stomach.
It is
it's
my
not
stomach.
like, because when I hear sleeve, I think of like, when you put a sleeve over your arm, like, and so I'm imagining they put something that's restrictive so it holds it in, but it is just your stomach. They've just left it 80% smaller.
Yes, they took out the stomach.
So technically, it could stretch again.
It could. Yes. So that
to where
is
you'd
so
still feel
important
right.
for
So
me
it's important
to
for you to
address
control
the
your portion
underlying-
size. Otherwise, you're going to go.
Yes.
Could expand
100%.
it again.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So he's at the foot of the bed saying you're ready. I'm not sure, but you went ahead and did that.
I did.
In October of last year.
Yes. And it was definitely more painful than I expected.
Really?
The recovery was and all that?
Yeah, it was a lot harder than
internally
I expected.
or just like the incision and all that? But could you feel it internally? I'm always curious. People that have surgery.
Yeah, I'm feeling very woozy.
Could you feel it like your stomach aching inside of you?
I felt a lot of pain.
Just in your abdomen?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then
You feel it right now?
You have to use the stomach.
Yeah, you gotta keep eating.
You have to drink. Well,
drink.
at least
okay,
drink.
drink for a while.
Yeah, so you drink for 2 weeks. That's it. Just drink.
But I assume not like
Protein.
you put protein.
You
You're
could do,
doing
you can do those protein drinks, not anything that heavy. Like I had
really?
to drink like the clear liquid protein drinks for 2 weeks. So it was good.
The ISO, whatever.
Yes.
You'll lose
I
weight
did.
doing that alone, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now when you drank that for 2 weeks. I'm just curious of the process. When you drank that for 2 weeks, did you not feel hungry because of the size of your stomach and all that?
No hunger. No.
Never. You probably almost never felt hungry.
No, no hunger. No, hunger didn't actually appear until 6 months later.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
So okay. So here's the question.
There's a physical part of your stomach. I don't remember now what it. The ghrelin, I think.
Okay.
The ghrelin is where the hormone.
It's a gremlin.
I
got a gremlin in me too. It's
We
all
got to
the same.
tame the
We'll
gremlin.
name it the gremlin.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but we'll call it the gremlin.
I think it's the ghrelin. But you take away that
Whose god
part
is their
of your-
stomach? It's the gremlin god.
Yeah. Love it.
You take that away when you cut the stomach. Now it redevelops. That's why I say. But
Oh.
no, I didn't have any hunger.
Is that the
whatsoever.
part that, I wonder if it's a part that's connected to, because obviously hunger pain is your body saying it needs something.
Yes. Right.
Right? And so maybe the gremlin
Yes.
inside
It's growling.
is actually, it's growling, right?
Right.
Because it's saying something's missing from the body.
Right.
And so it took 6 months. So you had to kind of nutritionally decide, and I guess at that point you're picking and choosing what you want to eat because you weren't even hungry, but you just know you have to eat.
Right. Yes. So we've got 6 months of breaking a habit.
I guess
Wow.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's probably significant.
6 months of-
rewiring your brain.
Right. And if you think about portions, for the first 3 months, my portion size was 1/4 of a cup at a time. That's 4 tablespoons. Like a quarter of a cup's not very much. It's a condiment dish. In the thing that condiments
Yeah.
come in at the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's my meal size.
Wow.
Now, is that, some people would say, people that are nutritionists would say that portion of amount of food is not enough for your body, the physiological
That's
needs
true.
of your
Long
body.
term, it's not.
It's
No.
not.
No, not long term.
So while you're in this process of eating a cup size or whatever of food, is that you don't have the hunger pain because of this, but are you kind of in a way starving your body, and so it's losing the fat,
it's burning
also
the fat.
burning the
Right.
muscle?
Yeah.
It's probably losing
Yes.
fat and muscle and
Right.
all of that, right?
Right.
Just
Right.
along this journey.
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
probably-
and that's why people will have nutritional deficits. One of the things that I made a concerted effort to do
Yeah.
is to make sure everything that went into my body was twofold. Something I enjoyed
Okay.
eating. And second was something that was nutritional. So something that
Give
was
us some examples.
actually,
I don't
Okay.
want to. I want to know, like, what did you eat?
Okay. So when I was at I still eat every day a protein shake. So
Okay.
now we have, we have 30 grams of protein in
Okay.
that, right?
Yeah.
I eat now according to macros, but then I would make pureed because then you had to do pureed for 2 months after that. Everything pureed. So it's kind of
Everything has to be when you eat food
Yeah, for the first,
after the first 2 weeks.
and then you have
Liquid,
2 months of
then
puree.
2 months of puree.
Wow.
Yes.
So
And then
puree chocolate, puree
Yeah.
pizza.
Nope.
But you said
Puree
And
burgers.
That's a point. Like that's what I will see people do is do the pizza and the burgers.
oh.
That's not nutritionally dense. So
No, it's not. But
you think
puree
about
pizza just sounds awful.
Oh.
To me. I'm sorry.
chicken salad. So I did do a lot of chicken salad. That
Pureed
was
chicken
pureed.
salad?
I did cottage cheese pureed.
Oh wow.
Isn't it already? I guess it's not
Well,
totally. But
no, it's not.
You had to almost
still.
drink it.
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't
No.
like cottage cheese, so I'm out there now.
Yeah.
See?
But
this is
without
my
your
problem.
hunger pains, you didn't really care.
I didn't. As long as I was having energy.
So
So I
s-
did eat because
But our
of the
taste
energy.
buds knew.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do like.
But you
cottage
did stuff
cheese.
that
I
you
don't eat
liked.
things
Okay.
I didn't like.
So I want to
have
just
so
because
many
I want to.
questions.
I know. I feel like we should have done
I'm
3
sorry.
of these.
I feel like I'm just bombarding this with questions.
No,
I'm
but it's
so
good.
curious.
No.
It's so fascinating. But I do want to know because I think one of the most powerful parts of your story is that food addiction, number one's been broken,
Yes,
but number two is translated to all the other areas of your life.
it has.
So talk to me about that.
Okay. Well, and I want to say that food addiction has been broken, but that's not to say that I haven't gone back
Sure.
at times and eaten food for the wrong reasons, for emotional reasons. I think that cycle being broken in me also has to do with the shame part. And so when I have done that, instead of just repeating, okay, I have a negative emotion, I eat, I feel comfort, now I have shame. Shame is a negative emotion, so I eat again, and on we go. I've put a break in that. So in the 6 months helped, but
Yeah.
now I can eat those things, right? And so if
Oh,
I do
Yeah.
sometimes, and I have done this, eaten something that I'm like, ugh. I went to food as a friend instead of just for like my meal. And I know that instead of going, okay, now I feel shame, I just stop and I say, okay. So there must be a negative emotion inside of me. What's going on in my life?
You
What's
use
happening?
it as a way to trigger an internal check.
Yep.
Check engine light.
Yes. Yes.
Because I just had a
love that.
cupcake.
Yes. Okay, so that's a
check engine.
So now your mashed
Yes.
potatoes are a mirror.
Oh, wait a minute.
chocolate.
Okay,
Mashed
so
potatoes, yeah.
so okay. I
don't
feel
eat
like I
mashed
could sit here
potatoes.
for all day and ask questions because I'm just okay. I want to ask this because you found a connection to negative emotions that would lead you to eat
Yes.
unhealthy.
Yes.
I don't always have negative emotions, but still want to eat unhealthy.
Right, because it tastes good.
Because it tastes good.
Right.
So I just okay.
It's just because you're a sophisticated man with simple food pleasures.
Yes. That are healthy. I agree. So I guess when I sit here and listen to you talk about this, I try to put myself in the place of a listener, myself and anybody else that would say, how does somebody listening to this figure out if there is a food addiction or a unhealthy relationship with food when they're not currently having a negative emotion? In other words, you could have a history of 30, this happened, I went to eating. This happened, I went to eating. I think that can also become a pattern. So it's
For sure.
not connected to
That's
a
for
negative
sure.
emotion
Could be a habit.
that
Yes.
you do. And so I guess it's like, is there, I don't know if is there anything else you would add from your perspective that's not just, I had a negative emotion. I mean, it is interesting once you've gone through that journey. I wonder how I would think of like, man, I'm craving ice cream from Dairy Queen right now. Let's just say.
Are you saying
should
like
that be a moment where I go, okay, why am I craving ice cream from Dairy Queen? Because you'd be like, I love ice cream. I guess in my mind, that's how simplistic. I'm like, I just love ice cream. I love it. I have a sweet tooth. I want ice cream.
Can you have ice cream in moderation? Or when you get ice cream in front of you, do you eat a whole tub of it?
I don't eat a whole tub of it.
Okay.
If I had ice cream at home, I would have a more than normal size portion.
Okay. But do you balance
if I were to go to Dairy Queen and say get a Blizzard, I'm probably going to order a medium or small. It won't be like large. I don't just and that's not enough.
Right.
I'd probably be fine just eating a small Blizzard.
Right.
I eat a medium-sized cone.
Right.
I'm just trying to put myself. This is also me listening, and going, okay, how do I know if I am eating for the wrong reasons or I just like eating the wrong things?
Yeah, almost like, how do you know that this is a deep psychological fruit from a hidden root that needs to be addressed versus, you kind of got a blind spot, a bad habit.
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
saying
the
you have all the answers. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
if there,
but don't you think that's the reason that you eat? So I go back to, again, food is pleasurable. It tastes good.
I agree.
Right? And I think that's okay. Yeah. Like, I really do think it's
but
okay
it's always
to enjoy
the wrong
food.
foods for me
But
that
is
are
there a
pleasurable.
wrong food? God made all
Yes,
It's
food.
because you don't eat
there
with me
is.
often enough.
Did God make Twinkies? There's so much preservatives and synthetic things in there. I don't know. I don't love Twinkies. I was just throwing out probably an extreme thing. But it's like even ice cream. I mean, you can look at it and go, okay, there's a lot of the things. Yes, I look at all foods and go, unless it's man-made stuff in there, it all can point back to something that God made, right? But I also look at that, and I've also heard and read other things when people talk about the maker's diet, other things where there was like, go back and say, man was really only made to eat natural things out of the ground, maybe natural things that move on the earth. You know what I mean? Not what we've created out of them. How do you feel like that? How does that resonate with you, or no? Because, I mean, you definitely have a different take. It's like not as much. You're like, I'm going to eat something that I like, but I'm going to eat a healthier portion.
And also nutrition.
And nutrition.
So that's important. So if I'm not eating very much,
okay.
If I'm eating ice cream,
but not.
It's not regularly.
Protein. If you're eating,
it's a bite, and it's not a regular.
Because you had a birthday recently, and it was a treat for you to have a bite of cake.
A bite, yes.
But
it's a bite. It's not a piece of cake.
But do you have a bite and want more, or do you have a bite and you're like, I'm full, and so I just like the taste of it, so I'm enjoying it? Because I could have cake, and I don't have a sleeve, and I've probably worked really hard my many years to stretch my stomach out. Not that I should have, but I would want more than a bite.
Yeah, I do most of the time.
Most
Not
of the
all
time. So you are controlling that.
Yes.
It's not the.
Yes.
What I'm saying is not the procedure at this point. It's not that you are literally. I mean, at some point, a little bit. But
I also think there's a
Yeah.
difference between the fact that sugar is addictive,
Yes.
versus you're addicted.
Yes. Yeah. If you eat any
So-
sugar,
the difference.
even
Because-
if you have one bite of something that's sugary, you are going to want more sugar. in
Yeah,
it.
as you
That's
are.
a physiological.
I agree.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just look at your life and I'm like, you probably are somebody who's like, okay, all these areas of your life you're disciplined.
Yeah.
You love your life and you work out. And so, because I think part of like recognizing if something's a problem is when it begins to adversely affect your
Yes.
life.
Yes. And
So-
mental health.
Yes.
Yeah. So probably if you're like, look, I'm good and my mental health's
Right.
good and my physical fitness is good,
Right.
I'm going to eat what I want to eat.
That's right.
I'm not saying that's
I've been
great.
able to do that for much of my life, I think, because I've had a high metabolism rate. I think naturally I do. I was like really skinny in high school.
Right.
I didn't put on weight until I started working out and other things. High metabolism rate, high activity. I've always been very active, playing sports and working out.
Right.
And I still do. I feel guilty when I don't go to the gym. There's some psychological. I feel guilty about if I continue eating what I'm eating, and it's been 2 days and I haven't gone to the gym. So there's probably a psychological problem there, because I do.
I'm the same
but
way.
I do like working out as well.
I like working out,
I do.
too.
I do.
Yeah.
But I also then feel that like it's like, boy, we go on a trip or we do it. Or it's like, man, it's been a whole week. We've been out. We've gone out to eat a bunch of stuff, and I haven't gone to the gym.
But I think you also didn't mention the things that I think probably the biggest hidden factors that people don't factor in, which is the mental health side of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the way everything you do with your body affects your mental health.
Yes.
But I think you have been very much blessed relationally and spiritually. Most of the time, you've gone through hard times, but you have an overall sense of resilience and you have great mental health and family and joy and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And when you have that and you're physically active with a high metabolism, it's not going to affect you as much.
Right.
But people don't
Exactly.
realize especially if you have struggles with anxiety
Yeah.
or depression,
Right.
mental health,
Yeah.
Right.
then it's only going to be magnified what you
Yes.
put into your body.
Yes.
Good point.
The
Yes.
rest you get, the exercise
for
you
sure.
get.
Very good point. I agree.
yeah.
I think I've been blessed in some of those areas and active, but I am noticing too now as I've gotten older, and in this decade, it's getting way harder.
Yeah.
And I have to be very conscious of like more of what I'm eating, how much of what I'm eating.
Yeah.
Am I eating the right things? I have to be.
Yeah.
I really do.
And that probably right there, all of what you said, tells me you don't have a psychological problem with food, because you are
Yeah.
willing to do what you need
Yeah.
to do to adjust based on what your body now needs, because you're getting older, like
I don't.
you said.
I don't
you
feel like
know?
I've ever had a psychological
Yeah.
issue with food. I also don't think I've had a very healthy diet for most of my life.
Okay.
Like I've
I
never.
think those
I've
are two
never,
different
I've never.
things.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm not saying they are. I
Yeah.
agree. I'm just saying I've not. I mean, I would say up until I probably turned 40-ish or so, I don't think I really ever had to worry too much about what I ate.
Right.
Like I've been, I think some of that active lifestyle, high metabolism rate,
Right.
just that.
Right.
As I've gotten older, it's gotten way harder, and
Right.
I've realized I have to be way more active. Now I'm just more conscious about it all the time. Like we
Right.
can't eat that, and we just went
Right.
on a trip. I need to do this. You know what I mean? So I'm more aware of it now. So,
Right.
but I don't ever feel like I connect it. And maybe that's just that everybody's journey is different.
Right.
Right. I could have other things that I turn to when I
Right.
had emotional things
Right.
that probably wasn't food for me.
Right.
Well, can I ask, because we'll have to close in just a moment. This is going by too fast.
Oh, my God.
What's your new source? So if food was your source, and I mean, I know there's the spiritual answer is God. Maybe that's it. It could also be an outlet. Like,
Yeah.
Me and you talked on the phone about this. I think a lot of people underestimate the danger of trading addictions.
Right. Yes. And that's
So,
definitely.
someone stops drinking, and so now it's
Yes.
it's 3 pizzas instead of 3 bottles.
Right. Right.
And so like, where do you go for your source?
Well, I think two things.
Okay.
I do the check engine light. I check in with myself.
Okay.
Instead of just trying to dull that, just trying to numb it, just trying to escape it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if I'm checking in with myself, maybe it's a relationship disappointment. And so then I sit with that emotion. I pray or ask God to be with me in that emotion. And then I think about what can I control. So that's kind of the
Yeah.
head
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay. But I think that the other thing I do, is tell myself my whys and remind myself my whys.
Vision.
That's power.
Yeah, vision.
Granddaughter.
Yes. And
Right?
that
You
was
have a new granddaughter.
Deal to
Yeah.
me.
So it's like now I want to see, I got a grandson. I was like, I want to see him grow up. I want to see him get married someday. I want to see him that. So you go, I
and I
care
want to be
about
able
that.
to get up and down off the ground.
Yeah, play with him.
But yes, I want to be able to run through the yard and
good.
play with her. And,
I love that.
And those things. So remind myself of those whys. And so I think it
good.
is very much a mental thing. But I think the biggest thing, and I guess in a summary, is I think I wanted life to be perfect. I think I wanted life to just be good. And so anytime it wasn't good, I couldn't handle that. Like I needed to somehow either fix it, so
Yeah.
it became controlling, and that's a whole other podcast,
Yeah.
right? Or I would try to numb it somehow with food. And I think that I've learned that life isn't always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is pain and disappointment in life, and it's okay. We can actually
Yeah.
be okay, and we can move through those times and move to the other side of those times, and then there'll be another season that's not so good. And it doesn't have to be fixing all the bad all the time.
Yeah. Acceptance.
Yes.
Acceptance.
Yeah, and contentment. Those are hand in hand.
Yeah, those are tough things. But I've heard a lot of that sentiment lately. That is very interesting. That the power of renewed or recalibrated expectation.
Yes.
That, you know, if you're having a negative feeling today, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It may mean that you're human.
Right.
And
Yes.
life is not always going to be roses.
Yes.
And there's joy to be found.
Yes.
Even in just the regular experience of life and the ups and downs. And
Yes.
that is powerful. Okay, I kind of asked this earlier, but your experience of the rest of your life from this change in your physical life. What has life felt like on the other side of food addiction? How has that translated to, you mentioned
Freedom.
even spiritually, even emotionally.
Yes, freedom. Like I did not, because I had the relationship with God, because I knew I was adored and cherished, I didn't recognize that I still had chains of bondage around this that was hampering that freedom, I guess.
Yeah.
Freedom not just with God, but also with other people. And
Like, what do you
feeling,
mean?
Freedom maybe just to be myself. And a confidence to be myself and
Yeah.
not have to put on something, put on a mask or put on an image or try to project something
good.
that I want people to see.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good.
I think sometimes I was doing that without knowing that I was doing that.
Do you think you were doing that to compensate for how you felt because of your weight?
Probably, yeah, because I was ashamed of what I look like, and
So
it's
you
on the
had-
outside all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so I think maybe I was doing that to.
Do you think it usually takes? It's so interesting. Some of the common denominators you hear in some of your stories is this. You know, with Donald Miller, with in storytelling, they call it an inciting incident. So you've had several like inciting incidents. You know,
Yeah.
you stopped bulimia because you saw the thing about throat cancer.
Yes.
You realized you couldn't get up and down steps. It's interesting. I don't know if I told it in the book I first wrote, but my youth pastor that was kind of like a second father figure for like 20 years. Ended up becoming my pastor. We planted a church together, but I'll never forget when I first got to know him, he was probably like 350 pounds. He had gained a lot of weight. And then that was the only Lee I ever knew. And then my first year or two in college, I didn't know this had happened, but he had taken his family on a cruise. And his youngest daughter, Mackenzie, wanted him to go on a boat ride on this little excursion. And they
couldn't.
basically told him, you
Nope.
can't go. You're overweight.
No.
And he decided that day, nope,
Yeah.
it changes.
Right.
Now, he did the extreme, like, men's health thing. He got a men's health subscription. This is hilarious.
Men's health,
This made
nice.
me laugh. This is going to make you laugh. Talking about vision, he found, and this is like back to year 2000, I don't know, in the 2000s. He found a picture of Brad Pitt, put it in his gym bag, and said, that's what I'm going for. In the course of 16 months, he lost over 100 pounds. He became ripped, like six-pack.
Wow.
USA Today flew out, did an article on him.
Oh, wow.
Like, they flew him out to the 700 Club. It was a whole thing.
Really?
But I mean, just ripped. But it was that. But he goes back to that inciting incident
Yes.
Wow.
of, okay, enough's enough. And he didn't even let himself have a cheap bite for 6 or 7 months. So I just think it's always interesting to hear like different approaches, because some people, like a lot of trainers today, will say, okay, you need to start small. Small steps, small victories.
Sure.
And everybody's different. But for some people, it takes a moment, a like line in the sand.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
today.
And that's exactly for me. Yeah. And actually, there was more of that. So we were looking at houses, and I stepped off of a porch with my realtor in a neighborhood, and I fell. Just with the one step, I fell into the flower garden, and that was so humiliating. Like I was devastated that would happen, and humiliated. And I think that was also maybe the catapulting kind of like the boat incident for me, is like, this is ridiculous. No. And I had been exercising, and I still fell.
I had an inciting incident.
I can't wait.
Yes. So now that we're sharing stories.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, it was my oldest daughter's wedding. So that was in 2020. In January of 2021 was when I did the extreme low carb diet for about 6 months.
Keto,
and
man.
That was when I was in my best shape. At least in
You got a
regards
little too tiny.
My wife says the same thing as well. She did not like the way it looked. But we got the pictures back. And there was a picture of me when I walked her down the aisle. And it was, granted, my family always says, it was like this really bad up angle. And I had no chin. It was like, I'm like, it was one of the worst photos I've ever seen. Like I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that photo. And that bothered me for quite a while. I didn't do anything until probably about 4 or 5 months after that. But then when we came around the new year, I was also at the heaviest I'd ever been. And so I was like, I can't do this. After that photo and whatever. So now I have another wedding coming up.
There you go.
So it's in my mind right now. So I'm already thinking like, okay, what do I need to do?
You don't need to lose a
tighten up
pound.
little bit? No, it's just.
But it is.
But
an inciting incident can be powerful.
That is powerful. And so what I think, just to kind of sum up a few of these things, because I know we're trying to wrap up, but I think if anybody who's dealing with a weight journey, some of the things I want to say that we've brought out in this conversation that are at least good to think of. I think that you have to ask the question, is there a connection to something emotional?
Right.
Right? And that probably a lot of times there is.
Yes, I think so.
Right?
Especially if you have 123 pounds to lose
Yeah,
versus
and that's what you
23
lost.
pounds.
You lost 123
and I've got 13
pounds.
left to go.
Okay.
Yes.
That's incredible. But I do think that
Wait,
that's
13 left to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christie, come on.
She's going to hit a goal. Well, hold on.
I
We'll
have
get
a
there.
goal.
Right? We're going to
You're
hit
There
there.
you go.
Yes.
What I'm
Okay.
saying, I guess my point is this. If it's more of, maybe for somebody, it's more of an extreme situation, or they go, I really want to lose a lot. I think there's one thing to go, okay, there's eating well, and there's working out, and all of what we would say are the things that we'd say, the natural process of stuff you would want to do. But I think you need to have vision.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes it's an inciting incident, but you need to have some vision of what you're going for. However, I think you also need to address the emotional thing, because it will not last.
No, it won't.
This is why you said I lost 90 pounds and I couldn't. They told me I couldn't lose any more.
Right.
And I just put it all back on.
Right.
And so I guess what I'm saying is, like, if weight is a struggle, and it has been for anybody that's watching or listening, what I'm picking up out of this, and none of us are experts. You've gone through this. You're a life coach. We've all lived life a little bit, but I think you have to address all of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think there's those 3 categories in my mind, whether you have a medical procedure or not. You
Right.
need to address what's the emotional connection that you have with food, and you need to address that. And it could be helpful going to a life coach, someone as yourself who has experience with this, or somebody else, or a counselor. I need to address this so that I understand my relationship with food,
Right.
and I understand psychologically, and do something with that.
Yep.
Middle thing is, right, I've got to physically do something.
Yes.
It could be it's not just a procedure,
No.
but it's also adjusting portion size, macros, eating healthy, working
Right.
out. There's got to be that. But I think we all need a vision. We need something to aim
Yes.
for. I feel like
Agreed.
there's all three of those things somehow need to be part
Yeah.
I agree.
of somebody's journey, from maybe a weight struggle to getting in shape and healthy and
Right.
having something to look forward, which granddaughter
Right.
and wanting to be able to go up and down the stairs and be able to play with the grandkids. Like for you, as
Right.
you're saying, is that
and
vision.
avoiding diabetes, which
And
runs
diabetes in
in
your
my
fa-
family.
all
and
that's part
heart
of the vision.
conditions
Can I
and
add
all that.
something?
Is this a fourth thing? Boom.
I just think this is really important because I have some friends that will call me from time to time about this, and so you're our resident expert, so you can tell me, you can yay or nay what I'm about to say. And I know your journey, again, everybody's journey looks so differently.
Right.
So you had an inciting incident that led to a huge choice that forced a change.
Yes.
But Donald Miller talks about how if you're stuck, create a moment. Maybe there's not an inciting incident. You can create one that will force it. For instance, you sign the dotted lines on a marathon that forces you join a journey that forces you to change.
Yeah. That's true.
Hire somebody, and you're committed for 3 months to paying them for
right. Well, because
training or whatever.
I have a friend that for the last 4 or 5 years, she'll call from time to time, and she has a shame-based relationship with food.
Yeah.
And so most of my time is speaking to the lies. It's speaking more to her spirit. That's your value is not based on that. You've got blah, blah, blah. But then from time to time, I can tell she also practically wants to change because she's a mom to a lot of kids. And so about 2 months ago, she was going through all this, and I was more speaking to the more important part, her soul, her value, her not attaching performance to her worth and all those kind of things. And then, but I could tell, and I was like, okay, but do you want me to speak to the practical? She's like, sure. I said, how hard do you want me to be? She's like, hard. I said, you care so much about everybody in your life. For Enneagram purposes, she's a 2. I said, you care way more about everybody else. And until you decide that you're worth actually investing in, you're never going to change. Yes. I said, I've been telling you this for 3 years. You need to spend the money that you do not have. Yes. That will force you to have skin in the game and have community around you.
Yes.
There's a reason stuff like Orange Theory works. Yep. There's a reason stuff like CrossFit works because you, number one, have skin in the game. Number two, community.
Accountability.
If you have struggled with something for so long, just like mental health and depression, if you have struggled with something long enough, you cannot pull yourself out of the pit by your own third arm that doesn't exist.
Right.
You have to actually surround you with a community. And she goes, well, I got a friend that, goes on runs from time to time. Maybe I could join her. And I said, okay, since we're just having brutal honesty, can I just tell you what you already know? You're not going to do that. She's like, I said, so today you need to go sign up and pay a painful amount of money to join Orange Theory. I said, I'm going to connect you in a group chat with a girl named Gina, and this is going to be your support group. And she did it. I don't know how the last month has been. And she started losing weight, said she felt the best. But awesome. I think we have to realize where we're at in the journey. And if it's been a struggle long enough, we have to say, okay, what skin am I going to get in the game? And what community am I going to surround myself with that's going to force me to change?
Right. I agree with you 100%.
She put about $13,000 in
that's skin in the game.
And that did make a difference. I mean, okay, I do have skin in the game. And I actually signed up and saw a life coach, a therapist that went through the procedure months before.
Paid them.
Through the first several months of it because I knew that I needed somebody that had been there and walked through it with me. And I do have a very supportive family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and friends.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Yes.
We're proud of you.
Thank you.
When I got talking to you, good. When I got talking to you at our business leaders group, and I just heard you share a little bit of the story and just how you feel, and like you said, the freedom. I was like, I want to have you on the podcast. I want to share this story because
I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here and being open, and vulnerable, and just sharing your story. I think it's going to encourage and help other people.
Yeah, I really do.
I really do.
Yeah, I hope
Thank you for what you do and helping people in life. Life coach and therapy and all of that, and it's awesome.
It's been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, if this conversation's encouraged you, share it with somebody. Send us an email. Let us know any questions, comments you have. And until next week, we will see you then.
Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.